Because once you've got a great tune, that's what I always tell myself. Get the material that you're going to compose with, and the rest is craft and imagination. And imagination, what's great is you can imagine many things, but you only have to do the right thing.
Right.
But sometimes you got to imagine a lot of dumb things to get to the right thing.
And the
So
thing
yeah,
is, part of imagining the quote unquote right thing was imagining the quote unquote dumb things.
that's
So
right.
it's on the way.
That if you're writing for 50 or more people in an orchestra, it's almost impossible for anything over those numbers not to sound like something. It might not be great, but it's going to sound like something.
Right. It's gonna sound like something for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you, first, I just want to say, you're a terrific filmmaker. I mean, I was very impressed with your edit for the Hollywood Music Workshop.
Oh,
And
great.
so leading on to that, I was interested in the background. Where are you right now? And tell me a little bit about yourself before we dig into your music, because I've listened to both pieces and want to hear what you want to do and blah, blah, blah.
Sure. So I'm living in Asheville, North Carolina right now.
Okay.
Um, I actually went to school in Boston, Boston University. I studied computer science, but been composing since I was 14. So
Hmm.
I have no formal education in composition.
Oh, okay.
It's all been through actually, and it's a great thrill to meet you because really John Williams and all of that music was a huge influence on me and probably the reason why I got into composing. Um, you know,
Well, all I can say, look, I think John Williams is about the only composer anyone ever mentions of why they want to do music or compose music. And when we first did the prequels, like more than half the London Symphony Orchestra, they were in there and learned their instruments because of Star Wars.
yeah, it's
So,
amazing. One of my experiences by way of going back to the background is I've been deep in spiritual practice for 10 years and two of the major parts of that journey were going to India and being in silence for 40 days.
oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah. And it's actually it's interesting, right? Because you wouldn't think of it, but going to silence and removing all things actually develops a greater sensitivity to hearing those things when you come back, you know? Kind of like how rests in music are a critical component to hearing the sound that's generated when it's playing.
No, it's very interesting that you say that because uh, that's one of the things I lament about the technology today that's been marvelous for all of us in so many ways. Is that, like I've said, music is this thing that should emerge from silence,
Yeah.
and that you shouldn't immediately start, hitting the keyboard and doing a bunch of stuff. And it pays to be surrounded by silence. But that's impressive, Eric, because it sounds like you've been cultivating yourself to come back to music in a way.
Well, and music was my first meditation teacher. I didn't think of it that way. Music really gave me that outlet to be able to express things that I didn't have the faculties at that age to express in
Mhm.
standard
That makes
communication. And so a lot of my pieces that I've written have come from me processing events like 9/11 and climate crisis and actually the interesting thing is like and breakups victory actually is I wrote when I broke up with a girl and
Oh, really?
yeah so it's but it's interesting because whatever I'm going through the music kind of like has the mirror opposite. It's like if I'm going through darkness the music brings light. It kind of transmutes and when I listen to it later it's interesting because it's an uplifting. It's like the medicine that I needed naturally comes out uh, in the music.
Wow. That's interesting. And because again, I really thought the theme and everything to Victory was really good. I liked how you presented it in the trumpets and all that, and that it was C major. Yeah, so I wouldn't have thought the breakup, but so are these the pieces that you would like to record in Vienna, or tell me your purpose coming to Vienna, and I'll tell you, so I can help you.
What I'm interested in is creating containers for people to experience transformation. So really, like I feel music as a meditation, and I feel it as an energetic, kind of like an energetic acupuncture, or it moves in the system in a certain way because it's beyond words. We're such a mental heavy culture, and music has a way of just bypassing all of this. I really love the idea, and I'm excited about the idea of bringing people together and sharing music in person and using music as a way to glue everybody together. So for me, I want to stay connected to my creativity, be the channel, but also rely on collaboration. Work with people who know their craft, like not have to be the one who controls all the strings. Like know what I can do, bring it through, and then build a team of people that I can um, work with to realize the full vision.
The most important thing that you were saying that I will first jump onto is that I tell people you're not writing for the cello, you're writing for the person that plays that instrument. And that what you're saying about what you feel inside, that's what you're trying to release in them. So from my get-go is that from what you want to accomplish, I think that's the reason we write music in the first place. I wish I were more religious. And I don't, again, like I've said, I don't know if there is a God, but I will say this. I think he's got two languages. And one is music because it talks directly to us, and mathematics because you can't deny it, that there's truth in all those things and you can't deny it and you've got to accept it. But I like the idea that you're trying to bring something in yourself out because that's the first big step. So now let me tell you all the good news, I think, is that I really enjoyed your music and both pieces, and that they are, melodic, moving. I get the emotion of them, if you will, and I think that that's all positive because I think that's a baseline to start with. In other words, is that your music has this voice and it speaks and it reaches the listener, and so that's all good. The major thing that I would encourage you is that you've got, particularly in Hero's Journey, it's so relentlessly in A minor that that I think that if I had one suggestion to make is that one way of sort of keeping and energizing the piece is just through modulation. If you're writing for 50 or more people in an orchestra, it's almost impossible for anything over those numbers not to sound like something. It might not be great, but it's going to sound like something.
Right. It's going to sound like something for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and so now then under that, it takes a while to get that. But even say at the beginning, I think that sometimes I would almost say that some of your stuff might be considered over orchestrated to this degree. Is that sometimes you have a lot of moving things and then you have sustained things. At times, what can happen when you have too many things that are sustained, it's the enemy of what wants to move or what wants to be accented. And so, just even in this last Jurassic World that I was involved with, and they said, they pulled up things, they said, we want to use some of John's original music from the original Jurassic Park. But then when they started these other things, they brought out what Michael Giacchino's orchestrators had done to John's music, which was fascinating to me because I would think if you're just going to quote Jurassic Park, you would quote Jurassic Park.
Right.
But what these guys did was that they filled in almost every line in the orchestra. So even when the London musicians played John's stuff, they sat there and went like, "This doesn't sound like John Williams.
Mm.
It sounds too thick. It sounds too indistinct." Again, going back to something that you said earlier, and like I was saying, is that sometimes the white on the page is as important as the black. What I was going to say too is that your pieces, and I don't want you to take what I've been saying as criticism per se. I spent a week in Prague listening to a lot of orchestral music that was from game music. And I would say that both pieces that I heard by you right now could be in any game, would be recognized as professional and ready to go into those games.
Thank you.
Now, then what's really good about your music is that you do have a sense of what the motor is. You do have a sense of where the time is on the thing. Do I think that at times that stuff is sometimes stepping on things? Yes. But I think that if you have just that almost clear view of what is the melody, what is the bass, and that you know how the bass and the melody work together, because as a vocalist, you'll understand that in all choral music, that chances are when the sopranos are going to climax, the bass is going to climax. It's either going to go down really low or everybody's going to be shot up here
Right.
or whatever. And that feeling. And that's the other thing about what I think about your music, that I think that if as you perform it, is that you clearly hear it and the melodies and the directions of the melodies. Or I just put this out there, is that, say, in Heroes, even when you go to the trumpet solo in the middle of it, that was a moment which I thought one could modulate. In other words, that just some contrast to in the overall architecture of your piece there would have lifted it up. Now, I don't know if this would be possible, but if you could find some way to combine the two, that if, say, if Victory, where you have your trumpet solo, what if that was where we got to, or that the things cleared out, or you have some climax of the A minor stuff, and then something rolls out, but then sort of like out of the ashes or whatever of that particular thing comes the victory. Again, not to complicate your life. We're flat out generally in almost all the same registers most of the time in this piece. But if there could be some way where we might be able to focus on the basses, like maybe the basses get the melody of all things, and then it rises up. And so like when I am composing, I sometimes, like, I'd be taking your melody right here that you've got in Hero's Journey and say, what's it sound like up an octave? What does it sound like two octaves? What if the woodwinds had it? What would they be doing? Oh, the horns are doing this, but what if rather than just these repeated notes, they were all harmonized? Blah, blah, blah. And I sort of go through several licks, and I go, what would it do in the bass? What would it do in the middle? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
What's its climax that would, sort of have like this, and then it comes down, and then we go into the slopes.
Right.
And so I'd work on some of the material again, because it's really good. That's what's so good, is that it's great melodies. It's very memorable. I think you can work with it more. You're very much a melodic writer. And just again, I'll tell a story of years ago. Randy Newman was doing a movie called Seabiscuit, which was about okay. And Randy wrote a score that was almost all melody. And that wasn't quite what Gary Ross wanted. And so I won't go into the whole thing, but I was called, and Bill Ross was called in. We were called in to sort of find ways of making you anticipate the melody. And use bits of it so that everything would get together. Because if you play piano and you sort of think about a sonata, right? If you play Beethoven or one of those things, is that, what's a sonata form? Well, you get one long theme, and then you get a transition, that sort of sequence of circle of fifths to the second theme, and blah, blah, blah. But then you get to the development section. And what's the development section? That's what's so unfortunate in English, is that we call it a development section, when in really, in German, they call it a Durchführung, which means to lead through, which means that you take bits of the melody and you chop it up. You take your melody and you make it these short bits that then contrast with each other. And like this, and they go through circle of fifths. And it makes you want to have the melody back. And so even if you had in a contemporary piece such as yours, it might have the absolute opposite of that, that you start off with Hero's Journey and the melody is complete and it's big and it's all this stuff. You've got the melody. What if the melody fell apart? What if the direction of this was that it became more fragmented and then it came back, or if it disappeared and then victory happened, or blah, blah, blah. But you keep thinking more about how you can contrast, because you got a great melody. What makes me want to hear it more?
Mhm.
And at times, again, it's okay to sometimes go down low and just have that, or go up high and just have that. But Dominic's done a great job, and nothing against him.
Yep.
Just trying to make sure that we have, because I think that sadly we don't have as many woodwinds as I would like,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Um, can I share an insecurity with you
Sure.
as a composer? Music that I've written has always, it comes to me, right? It comes to me in a way, and it kind of like, so the fear that I have is like if somebody wants me to do something, like I'm like, well, I can't write music. I've never been able to write music. It comes when it comes, and it doesn't come when it doesn't come. I have to be inspired. I have this belief I have to be inspired. It's like, what if nothing comes? What if nothing happens?
As Earl Hagen used to say, when nothing comes, go and play golf. That's the, but, but first, let me tell you, I think everybody has that. And I think the major thing is that, one, set yourself sort of goals for yourself. Like when I was going to school, we had to do things like write in the style of this, write in the style of that, write in the style of that. And, and these are things that you can do on your own for that insecurity. Because all it is just, believe it or not, it's amazing how a deadline has inspiration at times. This is fixable by you just sort of exercising like you would on the piano. Just pick a style, go, today I'm going to write 8 bars of Mozart, or I'm going to or play through a bunch of music and listen to a bunch of music and enlarge your world. Now then, on the next thing, which is going to be more important, keep who you are, because maybe the thing to do is keep writing what you want to write. Because what I tell all young people these days, people are looking for artists. I think all young people, you should put together an album of your music. Go and start being more inspired. In Asheville, you're in a beautiful place. You can have beautiful walks, and that's what I do, Eric. Because you're clearly a really creative individual. You're clearly uber smart and everything else, and you're doing computers and stuff. Um, and all this stuff is knowable. The only thing that makes it not knowable is when you have an idea in your head that I can only do it when I'm inspired. And the thing is, maybe the thing to do is work so that you're always inspired, that you always have it running through your head. And I think that I know you can do it. And so I wouldn't be put off by that. I would, if I were you too, I would sit there and go, I'm trying to make an album of my stuff. In fact, you might be inspired enough to sort of sit there and say, look, I need to have an album that tells a story. And maybe that story is how I found silence, for all I know. It's what made you take your spiritual journey. Maybe that's the album you should be writing, since that's where has brought you back and everything else. But if you really want to score films right now, I was just in Prague. They're looking for artists that perform and all this kind of stuff, but they were looking for distinctive voices. And I think you could have one. And that's what I would concentrate on. Because, and don't let this, and those insecurities, we all have them. That's part of this business. And you just sort of go, well, I guess I could wait to be inspired, but like I tell people, and this is not my original with me, in the movie business, we don't write novels, we're doing a newspaper. So this is, you got to see how good I was on Thursday. Maybe I'll be better on Friday.
Right.
It might be worse on Saturday. But the thing is that it's not that day that defines you. It's not that one idea. It's the totality of that. And the
Right.
more that you confront that abyss and overcome it,
Mhm.
that because the major thing is right now, and because I just worry that if you start telling yourself, I can only work when I'm inspired,
Mhm.
that'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. Well, and actually, I know it's not true. I mean, really, the
Yeah.
times when I produced the most music is simply when I was showing up every day and doing it. Because out of the 2 months I may be doing that, 80% of whatever happened never came to anything. But two of those pieces I've recorded with orchestras. And it's like, the showing up, and then yeah. So I know. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
okay.
and are you think that you want to transition from doing the computer thing to being a full-time artist? That's a question. It's a big question,
I've
I'm
already
sure.
done that.
Good.
I
Okay.
mean, I've
So,
I've left the computer thing. You know,
okay, great.
I'm trying to be true to myself because what I don't want to do is like when I was starting my software company, 60 hours a week, 80 hours a week, and I didn't have balance in my life. And I realized the most important things in my life are my relationship to myself, my relationship to others, and sharing meaning with the world in some way. So I'm approaching it in that way where I'm not trying to chase after something. I'm trying to listen to what wants to come through me. Um, and doing it that way.
Well, that's good. And if you can take these times and this particular opportunity to sort of focus in on what it is that you want to do, also take some time to start becoming acquainted with more music, I would say,
Yeah.
because it's where the versatility will come. I think. Um, and maybe you don't need to be versatile. I mean, it's if you've got your own distinctive voice, everybody's journey is different, and it seems to me that you're very poised and you have a very sense of who you are, and you're very confident that I'd really encourage you to sort of continue along these lines because I think that it seems like you are ready for a change in your life,
Yeah.
that you can take this journey. Um,
This is a time of investing in myself and opening myself up to the mystery. Like I would never have imagined this this would be happening. I've recorded with orchestras a few times. That was a dream of mine. Like I never thought it could be possible, but it happened, and it's all through following the guidance. So I'm just going to continue to follow this journey and see where it goes. And things can change like that. When stuff's meant to happen, you can't stop it from happening. So I'm just going to walk the path wherever it leads. And
well, we just have well, and you've got the courage to do it. May I ask how old you are? I mean,
44.
44,
Yeah.
young man. And so it's a good time
Yeah.
because I think that clearly you've thought and you've earned this.
Thank you.
And if you can find that silence and kill that inner critic or whatever that holds you back, yeah, that just do it because I think that there's no reason you can't do it. From what I hear, I'm trying to find a way to phrase this. You got great melodies, you got really good direction and stuff. And to quote another colleague of mine that's no longer, you might not know his name. His name is Bruce Broughton, but in the
Oh yeah,
30s, he
I
30
know
years.
him. Yeah.
Okay, with Bruce, um, and with also John. Once you've got the melody, the rest of this is just composing. If that sounds silly, but really composing is kind of a craft. It's being able to rearrange your
Right.
ideas so that you sort of go, well, now this is a noun, but how can I make it a gerund, or how can I make it a how can I make that thing behave grammatically in a different way that it's moving somewhere rather than being somewhere.
Right.
And once you've got the thing that the hard thing is to have a good melody and have some nice little thing that connects that note to that note to that note. Oh, those, if I can just concentrate on da 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 dum, da da dum, ba da on that one thing that was just a kind of connecting thing in the middle of the melody, then you'll have it licked.
Right.
Because once you've got a great tune, that's what I always tell myself. Get the material that you're going to compose with, and the rest is craft and imagination. And imagination, what's great is you can imagine many things, but you only have to do the right thing.
Right.
But sometimes you got to imagine a lot of dumb things to get to the right thing.
And the
So
thing
yeah,
is, part of imagining the quote unquote right thing was imagining the quote unquote dumb things.
that's
So
right.
it's on the way.
And so it's all of a piece, and you just can't. I know far too many people who are very smart that think, I'll wait for the good idea to come.
Right.
And to quote Bruce Broughton again, he says, go with your first bad idea, fix it.
Yeah.
But, but Eric, I think you're well on your way, and hope this helps. And I look
Yeah,
forward to the
very
next time.
much. Very much. Um, well, on the conducting side of things, like, do I need to be thinking about that in any way?
No, I mean, if you don't conduct, there will be someone to conduct your piece.
Okay. I mean,
Uh,
I'd like to try it, but I'm coming in fresh. Like,
Well, I would say, look, go. Leonard Slatkin has some videos that are about conducting,
hmm,
and so look him up on YouTube. In other words, YouTube's got a ton of stuff,
yeah,
but I'm sure that you've seen people conduct, and the major thing is to just get used to beating time, and also if you can, one of the simple things, got a tennis ball.
yeah,
If you got a tennis ball, because I think this all has to do with our simian roots and whatnot, is that lift it, throw it, pick it up, throw it, pick it up. And that kind of motion of just throw a ball, do a ball. And as Leonard Bernstein would say, like when I was a kid at Tanglewood, Lenny always had this thing of that pitch, pitch. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, and just start learning the patterns, but primarily get used to moving
right.
and try to move to music and do what every kid has done, and maybe you have to, which is put on your favorite piece of music
Oh, I've definitely done that plenty of
or
times.
move to it. And
Yeah.
so if you've
Like the
done that,
conducting. Yeah.
yeah. You,
I've air conducted plenty of times, but like never alive.
well, look at Leonard Slatkin's thing, and he'll sort of get you going and get you going, with doing, using your one hand to raise up as you're doing this and all that kind of stuff. But don't worry about that. But the
Okay.
major thing, I want people to do it so that they're connected
Right.
to the music, to their music and the musician, and then just know that joy because it's kind of church for me,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like the congregation, and you're the father or the preacher, or whatever you want to call
Beautiful.
it.
Well,
So,
thank
and
you. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful meeting you and having this conversation. I appreciate all your suggestions and encouragement. And I'm excited for this journey to see you in Vienna to learn and ultimately record the orchestra and hear everybody else's stuff. It's going to be really exciting to be in this creative container.
I hope so, and it's exciting for me to meet you, and I think I know what it means to change one's life. I can say, and I salute you because it's not an easy thing to do. But
Thank you.
the thing is, I think you've got another life ahead of you that will be the one that you've been wanting.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Eric, till next time, I look forward to it, and I'll get that off to Rolf and maybe with the next day or two. Okay.
All right. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Oh, you too. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Bye bye now.
Bye.